Have you ever been in a situation where you respond to what you see, but in your response, you're making assumptions about things you don't know? And once you find out the actual context for what you've said, you know you would have responded totally differently. You see, understanding the why will help us with the how. We know that in Boys Brigade, we need to continue to develop and evolve, and that means change. Boys and young men who come to BB are experiencing a totally different culture and context than those who came 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's a different world that they are living in, and we did not experience it. And so we need to continue to evolve and to develop and to make BB relevant so that we can continue to share a message that never changes. And that message is the love of our Saviour Jesus and his desire to be the saviour of every single young person that comes to BB. To help us understand the why and make it easier for the how, let's have a conversation. Let's talk BBNI. Let's talk about those things that maybe there's a few myths about, maybe there's misunderstanding. Let us tell you the why so that the how becomes easier. Thank you for joining the conversation. We hope you find it really useful. And if this video doesn't address some of your questions, just pick up the phone, because one of our staff team would be delighted to have a conversation with you.
In Romans 12, we read the familiar verses 4 and 5, which say, "For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function, so we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one of another." BBNI is an organisation with many parts, but we're all connected through our object, through our vision, and through our commitment to ensuring that everyone who attends a BB company hears the gospel. Our vision is to raise generations of Christ-like men, and we really hope that everyone is excited by that vision and committed to playing their part in it. Successfully realising the vision rests on all parts working together. To help us in working together, we'd like to explain what the pieces are and how they all fit together.
It's helpful to know some of the governance. BBNI is a company limited by guarantee and a registered charity. It has a board of trustees who are also the directors of that company. We're often asked, why is it the Northern Ireland Boys Brigade, but we call it BBNI? Should it not be Boys Brigade Northern Ireland? And that's such a good question. And we wanted to call it Boys Brigade Northern Ireland, but Companies House wouldn't approve that. So we think BBNI sounds slightly better than NIBB, so we've compromised by having the legal name the Northern Ireland Boys Brigade, but we call it BBNI for short.
Another great question is about our relationship with BB UK. In September 2023, we became an independent entity, the headquarter organisation for the Boys Brigade in Northern Ireland and Donegal. That means that any BB company currently existing or any new BB company in Northern Ireland and Donegal is part of BBNI. I'm glad to report we have a very healthy relationship with BB UK, alongside a commercial agreement with them for the use of the Boys Brigade name, certain trademarks and some programme elements. But the running of BBNI is the sole responsibility of the registered company and charity.
A board of trustees in a charity is responsible for the strategic direction of the organisation, and that includes finance, HR and compliance. It is normal practice for a board of trustees to have a chair. Glenn, can you tell us about the role of the chair? What do you do, and do you enjoy it?
The role of the chair in BBNI is a wide and varied role. Firstly, I'm chair of the board, which means that on 6 or 7 occasions per year, I chair the board meetings, ensuring that the business is covered and that good decisions are made. And I also ensure of good governance and that the organisation is fulfilling its objectives and also its obligations as the company and the charity. In practice, that means working alongside Lisa here, our Chief Officer, the Treasurer and the other trustees to ensure that finance, staffing, property and the strategic direction of BBNI is continuing to grow from strength to strength, and so that it all works together to support the organisation's vision. It's different to the past arrangements where the president was also the chair. And this decision has made a few years ago now to move towards a more skill-based board. Therefore, the chair of the board would be elected from the pool of people and no longer be the president. In practice, that means trustees are recruited for their skills and no longer nominated by battalions. Interestingly, it also means that not all trustees will have been or will currently be leaders in BB. That gives us some objectivity and allows us to learn good practice from outside our organisation.
Glenn, you mentioned that your role is not the same as the previous structure and that the president is separate to you. Can you tell us a little bit about the role of the president?
Yes, so the role of the president in BBNI is that of an ambassadorial role and not one with the responsibility and trappings of being a trustee. This then frees up our president to be more on the ground, so to speak, with only a few meetings to attend per year. But this also gives our president the time to be visible in our companies, in our battalions, and at various leaders' events that we may have, representing BBNI. He also represents BBNI at outside events without the limitations of being a trustee. So we're joined with Phil here, and he's the treasurer for BBNI. And Phil, could you explain to us what your role involved?
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. As treasurer, I essentially look after the financial health of BBNI, working closely with Lisa and the team to plan budgets, monitor spending, and make sure we meet our legal and charity responsibilities. It's about stewardship, using our funds wisely so we can focus on our mission. And also keep trustees informed through clear reports and ensuring our finances are managed safely and responsibly. It's very much in place to meet our objectives.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So every company we have pays what we call a capitation fee. So how does the board and you decide how much to charge, and what's that capitation then used for?
Yeah, great question, Glenn. Capitation is how we share the cost of running BBNI together. So yes, we have funding from sources like the Education Authority and other funding sources, but our central pool is BBNI money from our companies. Each company's payment helps cover everything from our contribution to brigade, staff salaries, insurance, supplies and programme development, and right through to general running costs. Roughly speaking, it breaks down about currently 30% to brigade UK, 30% for staff, 10% for insurance, 10% for programme and supplies, and around 20% for other operational costs. So the money is clearly transparent of where it goes as well. In terms of making that decision each year, we, like every other organisation and company, and indeed everyone in life, are facing higher costs. So if we look at the history of the last few years, we actually reduced capitation for a couple of years to support companies in the transition, but like everyone else, those higher costs have now hit home, just like they've hit here with staff costs, insurance, as we see across the country. So like a £1 increase, while sounding minor, actually means there's over £12,000 coming into BB to help us fund and meet our mission. In terms of the decision that gets taken each year, the board discuss that. We take factors, it's balancing risk and opportunity through all our conversations. And then we propose that and take that to the annual meeting each year where the membership then vote on that.
Okay, thank you very much. So in addition to being our treasurer, Phil, you're also a trustee. So can you tell us a wee bit about that and how you view your role as a trustee and what you enjoy about it?
Yeah, I suppose our role is very much making sure we're using our resources well and staying true to our purpose. I think, as I said in previous questions, about balancing risk and opportunity, asking the good questions, challenging each other and supporting the wider team. The Bible does often talk about stewardship and being faithful with what's been entrusted to us. And I think that really sums up being a trustee, BBNI. And probably what I enjoy most about it is that fellowship amongst other trustees and the fact that you're able to use your skills wisely. I think over the years I've been mentored very well through church, and in particular in my own case through BB mentors across companies and Battalion and BBNI, and those skills gained, be it in that or different experiences in work, help me bring your skills to that, as others have as well through finance, teaching, ministry and leadership, and use them for one shared goal of building generations of Christ-like men.
Within the structure of BBNI, there is a delivery committee, and this committee meets 3 times a year. Now you may wonder who's on the delivery committee. Well, that's the president, the vice president, the chaplain, and representatives from each battalion who are nominated by that battalion, and the chairs of our different panels. Battalion representatives and chairs serve a time-bound term. Before each meeting, the representatives and the chairs are given themes and questions to discuss with their battalion and with their panel. These are then discussed at the delivery committee meetings. It's important to recognise that every BB company is different, and what works for one company may not work for another. And then there may be something else that works for that company, but it doesn't work for the other company. And so at the delivery committee, we want to hear the views and opinions from companies within the battalion on the various different themes that we ask them to consider. We want to hear the diverse range of views. We don't want battalions to vote and give us a consensus, because it's really important that we hear the diverse range of opinions and views affecting the companies within that battalion. It's vital that we get that range of different opinions, and then we add it to the information that our engagement officers get from their direct engagement with leaders. This then allows the staff to make balanced decisions based on what we hear from a wide range of companies. Let's hear from one of the members of the delivery committee, Caroline Curtin, who represents Route Battalion, and she's the leader in 2nd Route.
I joined the delivery committee last year, which would be September 2024. And I'm relatively new to Boys Brigade, and the delivery committee was really good for me in that I got ideas from other people. People are on the committee who have been in the Boys Brigade for 20, 30 years, and they have lots of good ideas as to what to do with the boys. I work with boys in the company section and the senior section, and it's important to keep them engaged with what we do and to come up with ideas so that they don't get bored, because there are lots of different things for them to do on a Monday night. So I wanted ideas and I wanted to meet people. And I have met lots of people through the delivery committee and have been able to correspond with them and ask questions that I might have and exchange ideas. I'm given questions by email from the delivery committee that they want answers to. So what I do then as a member of the Route Battalion, I go back to each of the members of the battalion and ask them those questions and make a note of what they're actually coming back to me with. I also ask to have a slot on the agenda for each of the Route Battalion meetings so that I can get further feedback from each of the members and to give information back to them as to what I have been told by the delivery committee. I've learned a little bit more about how Boys Brigade works and about how Boys Brigade Northern Ireland interact with all of the companies and battalions across the country. They provide us with structure, they provide us with ideas, and they also provide us with resources that we can use with the boys. So I've learned more about where those resources come from and where their thinking is and what direction Boys Brigade is taken. Through the delivery committee, I have learned that BBNI is moving with modern times and that we're providing activities and resources that connect with the boys in 2025 and in future years.
our staff team really enjoy working with the panels. Panels are made up of skilled volunteers who undertake various tasks each year. Work of the panels will include writing the scripture courses, developing training courses, and creating programme resources for use by every company. The panel members are not nominated by battalions, and each year new members join the panels. So to explain more about the work of a panel, let's hear from James Heenan, Chair of the Anchors Panel and leader in First Sleeved Honour.
Yes, well, we are a panel of about 12 members from all over Northern Ireland, and we meet about 3-4 times a year to plan the competitions for BBNI for the Anchor Boys. These include the creative competition, the music competition, the fun and games competition, and also the new BB Challenge Night competition. As well as that, we also get together to plan some of the more practical resources for the scripture programme. It's a great benefit having people from so many different areas in our country. I think whenever you do a BB programme, you can get so used to doing the same things every time, but whenever you meet with people of different ages in different battalions, you can meet and gather your own resources and ideas together to get something new and exciting that can be shared with everyone across Northern Ireland and Donegal. I think my highlight was delivering the fun and games competition. It's just so much fun to get together. You meet loads of different boys and leaders from all across our BB, and it's just a really good day of fun and games and of fellowship as well.
There's another piece in the structure of Boys Brigade, and that's the battalion. It's important that each company recognises that they are members of BBNI. It's the headquarter body to which they belong. Each company has then a geographical grouping called a battalion. The battalions are not in competition with BBNI, they serve a different function. It's fair to say that over the years, due to the advances in technology, the role of battalion has evolved and changed. So many years ago, before internet, email and WhatsApp, a lot of the communication from HQ was through battalions. There wasn't the same ability to communicate directly with individual leaders. But as communication has changed and technology has advanced, the BBNI staff team are able to engage directly with leaders right where they're at. So the role of the battalion has altered, but it is still a valuable part of the whole BB experience. Battalions will operate in slightly different ways. Battalions are responsible for deciding what their own structure is, and they decide that in a way that meets the needs of their particular battalion. Battalions will organise competitions. They will organise opportunities for companies to get together, have fellowship and get to know others from the other companies in their locality. There are many great examples of how battalions have worked together, where companies within the battalion have been able to join forces, where they don't have very many boys for President's or King's Badge, for example, or where they're able to support each other in competitions, or maybe helping out other companies by sharing leaders on occasions. They even could join together for camps and activities. The battalion also deliver the Building Your Skills for President's Badge course locally where they're at. We would really encourage companies to get involved with their battalion. But leaders who need support on the running of BB or the policies or procedures should direct their queries right here to BBNI. Companies do not need to go through the battalion to ask a question or receive advice. You'll get a quicker and better response if you go directly to the staff team who can make sure that they're answering the question that you're asking, and then secondly implement any support that is required as a result. Primarily the staff in BBNI are employed to support leaders, yes, to provide training and programme, and also to ensure the effective running of the overall charity.
Glenn, what is the role of the church in Boys Brigade and what's the role of the chaplain?
Okay, so we have somebody who's really well placed to answer that question for us. He's the BBNI chaplain, and he's the Reverend Johnny Moxon, who is also the chaplain of the First Ballyclare Company.
This role within the church and within being a chaplain in the BB is often a varied one, depending on the congregation. We would find some BB officers are chaplains and chaplains are BB officers, and they're already heavily involved within the work of their company. Some have a hands-off approach because they have already such a good team set up within BB who actually get what BB is about, and therefore they don't have to be just so involved. I know many BB chaplains will take the Bible class, and so they have an involvement in that way. But it's really good to be involved in some way and at some level in your company. And if you can even get involved in battalion level as well, then that's even better. But we do encourage some involvement, at least within your BB company. I know there are many demands made on chaplains, and often where there's a BB company, there will also be a GB company. That's not always the case, but often it can be. And so that means that there are two separate organisations in which they can be involved. So it's hard sometimes to spend significant time in either. But don't forget that it is not only for the boys and the young men that are involved that you're there for, but also for the leaders and the helpers within your company. Some of them may well be members of the congregation as well. So that means, therefore, you are caring for them too in the context of boys' brigades. So there are great opportunities to be involved within your company. We have an incredible opportunity to influence boys and young men for the gospel of Jesus Christ through the Boys Brigade. And that's what really excites me. Currently, the Boys Brigade is made up of a majority of boys and young men who come from an unchurched background. So this can be one of the major influences upon their lives for the Lord Jesus. And what a context to be able to do that. As you seek to develop them, you can challenge spiritually alongside all the physical and mental elements of Boys Brigade. So there's a real outreach opportunity for you, for your congregation, for your people, to reach into the lives of these boys and young men with the hope of the gospel. And what greater opportunity can there be? And what greater privilege is there? Part of the advice I would give is listen, you can't do everything. Part of the idea of BB is encouraging those that have gifts and talents within your congregation to serve as officers. Yes, you have a unique role as a chaplain, but part of the beauty of Boys Brigade is not only seeing young lives changed for the gospel, but also seeing young lives of those who love the Lord Jesus develop and grow and mature in their faith and their walk with Jesus. And even to see them come into leadership in to Boys Brigade and even in the life of your congregation as well. And that's a wonderful privilege to be able to see and to be a part of that journey in your Boys Brigade company. So my advice would be get involved, see lives changed and transformed for the Lord Jesus.
Lisa, how does the staff team fit into all this? What's your role?
So the staff team are employed by BBNI, and our accountability structure is very similar to any other organisation. I lead the staff team, which is a great privilege, and I am accountable to the trustees. The staff team each bring a variety of skills and experience to their roles. It's important to realise that our role is not to run a BB company, but actually our role is to provide support and guidance to our leaders, to equip them for the really important work that they do every week with boys and young men, but also to manage the day-to-day operations of the charity. And in addition then, I have the role of Company Secretary, which is Company Secretary to the board. I'm not a trustee, but I fulfil a role that is recognised in the governance structure of charities.
And Glenn, why do you have to be registered with BBNI?
So as a charity that works with boys and young men, we need to know who our leaders are. So we therefore need a process in place to register these leaders, and that includes an Access NI check as well. Registration of leaders is standard and compulsory practice in any organisation that works with children and young people, and in that BBNI is no different.
David, who appoints the leaders in BBNI?
This is a really simple answer, that's a question we get asked quite often. The church appoints the leaders of a BBNI company. To unpack that a little bit more, that would be your church leadership, vestry or session, whatever that's known within your own church context, and the pastor or minister, and they all play a part in that. And how this works is that it's down to your local church, and they would have a procedure for appointing leaders. And as part of our registration process, we will then verify with the church that that leader has been approved by the church.
David, do you have to be a member of a church to be a leader?
It's the church that determines the criteria to be a leader. So like they would set a criteria for any leader within the church, whether it's Sunday school or BB, but they set it for Boys Brigade too. So for an example, you may need to be a member of that church, but that would be that own particular church setting that criteria. So some may insist on that, some may not, but it really is down to your local church.
Lisa, you mentioned earlier there's a commercial agreement with BB UK to use the Boys Brigade name and certain trademarks. What are companies allowed to use?
So that's a really good question, Sam, and I'm going to try and explain it, but I would say that we also have some written guidance for companies that you should have all received, but we're very happy to circulate that again. So whenever we were going through the consultation process before we exited from BB UK, one of the things we heard from leaders over and over again was that it was really important to be the Boys Brigade, and it was really important to be recognisable. So we factored that all in whenever we were creating the marks, if you like, for BBNI. Alongside all of that, there was a requirement from BB UK that our logo would not replicate theirs, so that there was a clear distinction between the two separate organisations, and that's a compliance requirement, so that people know very much whether you're part of BB UK or you're part of BBNI, and that's important for compliance, as I say. So BBNI has two clear logos. One is more corporate and is mainly used by the staff team when appropriate. And the other logo features the anchor inside a circle, and it's more widely used. Having a unified identity for any organisation is really important. To help companies with the transition, we then created a customised logo for every company and every battalion. So that's a logo with your name on it, the name of your company or the name of your battalion. Now, changing logos on social media platforms and digital platforms doesn't bear a cost. And so we appreciate that some companies have materials, actual printed materials that have previous versions of the BB logo. And we're encouraging companies to try and phase them out. But on digital platforms, it's very easy to change those logos to the logos that we have provided for you. It is really important that we move forward with a consistent identity. For clarity, BBNI does not use the tagline, "The adventure begins here." And so companies should stop using that tagline, because that belongs to BB UK and we're not part of BB UK. We've also created a set of BBNI cartoons, and these are available on our website. They are exclusively for use in BBNI companies and must be used alongside an approved BBNI logo or the customised company logo that BBNI has provided for you. We know that some companies may have used BB UK cartoons in the past, and so we'd love you to replace these with the exclusive new cartoons that we have created just for your use.
Glenn, what is an AGM? What's an annual meeting? Why do we have to take these, and what happens at each of them?
Okay, so there's a few bits to that, Sam, but let me walk you through. So firstly, the AGM, which is the annual general meeting, and that's because we're a company limited by guarantee, and that is for the company, that is the Northern Ireland Boys Brigade, and we're required to hold that meeting every year. In BBNI, we determined that this is the responsibility of the trustees, who are the directors of the company, but also that the delivery committee play a role in that annual general meeting as well, and that gives some added accountability. What that means is that the trustees must share with the delivery committee details of their strategic plan, details of how they have operated in the past year, and they also table their finances that evening as well. Now, the trustees do not report to the delivery committee, but having the delivery committee involved gives greater transparency and accountability. At the AGM, the accounts are presented and agreed. The chair, the treasurer, and the chief officer all give reports on the previous year, and the presentation of the finances as well. Along with strategy, governance, and the operations, the delivery committee are able to ask questions then of the trustees as well.
The annual meeting is a celebration of the year, and it is open for any registered leader to attend. Within our regulations, we must have a vote on capitation, and that is presented as a proposal which has been determined by the trustees based on our finances, and that is voted on. At times there will be motions which are brought to the meeting. These will be proposals for areas which are considered to be significant changes, and these are voted on. These motions need to receive 2/3 of the vote to be carried. But fundamentally, the annual meeting is an opportunity to celebrate all the many achievements of the year.
David, every year there's new things in BB, like an autism toolkit. There was a games box sent to each battalion, and there's also made for more conferences. How do you decide what new things to add each year?
Through our engagement with leaders, we identify the needs of boys and leaders. This is through various methods, from one-to-one engagement, evaluations, focus groups, and panels who have a clear, defined role. We draw on the experience of volunteers, staff, members, and partner organisations. We work closely with many other organisations within the youth ministry sector, and the charity sector, and the youth sector. This enables us to see the landscape of boys and be able to equip our leaders with training and resources and support that they need. An example being this year that we're running mini conferences with Made for More. These conferences will address key messages that boys are facing at this time. We have seen in the media the conversation around masculinity, often paired with the word toxic. This is an example of how that BBNI can speak truth into the lives of boys and leaders at this crucial cultural moment. And that's a really important thing that we identify that. That's why we develop programs like the Made for More conferences. We can't sit still as an organisation. We can't do the same program and training that we've done for 140 years. We always have to be moving forward, and that's important. But the one thing that remains the same is our object of advancing Christ's kingdom. But we do need to meet the needs of our boys and young men in this moment.
Lisa, why does BBNI not recognise church safeguarding training? And why did they ask leaders to do the BBNI training?
That's a really good question, Sam. So firstly, we're not the church. We're a separate organisation, and we work with boys and young men. And so we are obligated to provide safeguarding training. We also have a duty of care to our boys and to our leaders. So we know that churches will expect leaders to attend their safeguarding training, and we do work with a variety of different churches. So all of their training will be slightly different. So we recognise the church safeguarding training, but instead of us designing a course that replicates that and then expecting all our leaders to attend it as well, we've designed and developed a safeguarding course specifically related to BBNI. Now, there will be some basic elements that are the same and that overlap, because safeguarding principles are safeguarding principles. However, in the BBNI safeguarding training, we very specifically look at reporting within BBNI and good practice with practical examples that relates to the operation of a BB company and relates to different things that will happen in a BB night or on a residential. We really do appreciate that leaders give up so much time for BB to be part of their weekly meetings, but also some of the other things that they get involved in, either at Northern Ireland level or in their battalion. But here's the thing, our safeguarding training is only 45 minutes online. So can you really say that you begrudge giving up 45 minutes of your time to prioritise the welfare of the boys and young men that come to your company and to protect yourself, to avoid being in a vulnerable position in your company?
Lisa, what's the role of the EA? Do they fund BB, and what does that look like?
So the Education Authority provide funding to organisations, and we have been so fortunate to have received Educational Authority funding. We apply for that money. It's a competitive process. And when we are awarded the funding, we have certain reporting and accountability measures. We basically are assessed on an ongoing basis to make sure we are delivering what we say we will deliver. This funding is very valuable. We really appreciate it and we don't take it for granted. It pays a proportion of the running costs of BBNI. It contributes to some of the salaries, but it certainly does not cover all of our running costs or all of our salaries.
EA funding is a fantastic opportunity for all of our companies locally to receive funding that they can use to support their programme every single week in BB. And we have an engagement team here at BBNI that will support your company through the application process. We're willing to meet you face-to-face, one-to-one on Zoom, over the phone, whatever works for your company, but we're accessible, we're ready to support you in that application. And it's a great resource. An example maybe is that a company could receive £1,000, but the amount depends on the criteria that the EA measures it with. But for example, you could have that money and you could be going on a trip somewhere, or you could be planning to buy some equipment, or just do general program stuff, bring people in to do different activities. The list is endless and it's a fantastic opportunity.
David, Glenn mentioned that battalions run the Building Your Skills for President's Badge course, but that's recently changed. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, that's right. It's been quite a big change to our Building Your Skills course for President's Badge. From September 2025, there's a new course that's replaced all previous formats.
So what does that mean?
What that means is this new course will be the only recognised course for the badge, the President's Badge. All courses will be booked directly through us here on our BBNI website. And the great thing is that we've tried to streamline the process. So in the past, you would have attended a course in your battalion, and then after that course, you then would have had to go on and apply for a badge from us. We've tied that all up in one, where you apply for the course, the badge is included, and everything comes at once. And when boys complete the course, we receive notification of that from the battalion, and the badges go out the doors here from Newport and land with the captains or correspondents. And that just makes that process a lot smoother and a lot easier for everyone involved. And it's worth noting that only registered BBNI leaders who have completed the facilitator training for that course can deliver as well. So we're trying to improve on the consistency there too.
So what does this course mean for leaders?
Well, when your boys are ready to work towards that award, if they're in year 11 upwards, And when they're ready, you can simply book them on the Battalion course through our website. Parents and guardians will receive a notification too as part of that process to complete the likes of consent forms. And then the course itself is a single 2-hour session, and BB uniform isn't required, and that's consistent whether it's being ran in Carrickfergus or Belfast.
David, some people may ask why the change?
A big reason for the change was to ensure consistency, and that's what we've said throughout all of this process from the very early stages of planning it. The need was identified because there wasn't consistency, so the big reason is to ensure consistency. We wanted every boy, whether he's in Coleraine or Lurgan, to have the same experience, the same opportunity, the same course, and make the process simpler as well for leaders, with everything including the badges handled in one step. And most importantly, this keeps the teamwork, the leadership, the creativity, and the faith at Christ right at the heart of the course. So we've thought a lot about the content, and over the years we have developed many of our courses. We've developed our Keen's Badge courses, our leader training courses, and when we go to do that, the one thing that we always think about, where we start from, is where's Christ, and Christ is central to all of those courses.
David, you run BBNI leader training. Why do you not run refresher training?
That's a really good question, and it's a question I get asked quite a lot. Why do you not run refresher training? The simple answer is that the current BBNI leader training is the refresher, and I'm going to unpack that a wee bit more and explain a wee bit more what that means. Someone will quite often share with me, I've done my training maybe in 1995, and that's me done. I've done my training, that's it. But if we were in any other setting, whether it's a professional job or training, if I said I'd done my training 30 years ago and that was me, I'm done, I think we would all agree that you can always learn, you can always refresh your skills, and that's an important part. And if you didn't do that in your professional job, well, you maybe wouldn't be doing the best of your job. You wouldn't be impacting the people or whatever you do in your job the best, because you need to continually develop. So I suppose that's an example of, something that you do 30 years ago. You can't just say that's me and then I'm done. So, and where I'm going with that is, we don't see or want refresher training just to become a simple 2-hour, maybe tick box exercise. We see it as much more. That leadership in BBNI is much more than just updating a certificate. We want it to be about meeting leaders, sharing ideas, equipping ourselves to be the very best we can be, refreshing our approach to program so that we don't go out of date in that sense, and that we're relevant for the boys in front of us. Developing confidence in an ever-changing world, and understanding the culture that our boys are living in every single day, and being as effective as we lead boys in the ministry of Boys Brigade. If you did your leader training years ago, some of the terminology you maybe recognise are officer basic training or youth leader training back in the 90s or even the 80s. The content will naturally be very different today. In fact, BBNI leader training is brand new. It was launched in 2023. So if you've done your training before that, and that is BBNI training. And the course is being developed alongside changes in safeguarding, programme, youth and children's ministry, and how we support BB leaders today. Rather than going on a short course, I suppose that's what we're trying to summarise here, rather than going a short course that's a refresher, we feel the best way to truly refresh yourself is to come back and do the current BBNI leader training, and I would love for you all to come. So in short, if it's been a while since you've been trained, maybe you're one of those people in the 80s, 90s, I would really encourage you to do the current BBNI leader training. We have leaders who have returned to do that training, who have done it maybe a while ago and have came back and done the new training. And what's different is they know that maybe they were here 5 years ago, or maybe they were here 20 years ago, that it is very, very different. It's completely different from what they that time ago. With this in mind, I would like to share one of those experiences with you now. Julian Halligan from 5th Newton Abbey is going to share his experience of returning to complete BBNI leader training after many years ago completing youth leader training.
I serve in 5th Newton Abbey BB. My name is Julian Halligan. 5th Newton Abbey is at White House Presbyterian, just down near the Abbey Centre. I've been in the BB since 1986 when it reformed after a short break during the Troubles, and I've been in it ever since then. So I did officers training initially whenever we first restarted, probably about 1987, 88 at Rathmore. And I've done no official training since then, but came back earlier this year for BBNI leader training. So it's been over 30 years since I've done any training, and obviously things have changed within BB, uniform, badges, etc. And then we had a young lad who'd come up through the BB, wanted to do training, and so to encourage him and also to learn myself, I decided it would be good to come back and do the leader training course. There was a number of highlights, so there was a great amount of resources given out, both physical resources as well as information, bring us up to date. It was good to get together with other BB officers and to learn about issues that they have and how they're developing their BB. And it was good to be encouraged that the BB is still relevant today. Well, if you've done your training many years ago, it would have been a full weekend, and now it's just a day. Now, it is a long day, but actually you don't see the time going in, so you don't. And it's always good to keep up to date and relevant, making sure that you're not doing the same old programme, that you're learning new things and developing the BB. And it's good to be encouraged and also to encourage other leaders in the BB work.
David, some companies have a correspondent and some have a captain. Is a correspondent a trainee captain?
A company correspondent is not a captain or not a trainee captain. Where there is a period where there's no captain, maybe someone who's retired or maybe is no longer doing the role, a correspondent is appointed by the church. The church will appoint this person like any other leader. They would do it the same process, and the company correspondent will receive the communications a captain would receive, but they're not a captain. To be appointed a captain, you must be appointed by the church and have completed BBNI safeguarding training and BB leadership training. That would include officer basic training, youth leader training and BBNI leader training. Obviously, if you hadn't done training in a wee while, we would encourage you to do the most up-to-date training, which would be our BBNI leader training. I suppose to finish this off, there are times when people within a correspondent role are very much doing a captain's role. And the church are given the terminology to that person that they are the captain. This is not good practice, and the only reason this situation has arisen because they don't have the training requirements. They haven't completed, for example, captain's training. In this situation, if you're assuming the role of the captain as correspondent, you need to complete the training requirements as it's best practice.
So over the last few years, there's been a real focus from the staff team on engaging with leaders at local company level. Can you share some stories with me of how this engagement has helped those companies and maybe tell us a bit about the type of support you are able to provide?
Yes, Glenn, as an engagement team, we have the absolute honour of journeying alongside chaplains, captains, leaders, helpers, supporting them in the incredible work and ministry of their BB company. And engagement is more than just simply answering queries. I suppose sometimes people maybe ask us, what does that mean? It's more than just answering queries or answering emails. A big focus of our role is being relational, and that's an important thing. It's about getting alongside the leaders. It's about walking with them. It's easy for engagement to become transactional. So like a leader maybe asks for help with a certain situation, or even something simple like, oh, I need some flyers because I'm launching BB, and we send them out and that's it done. But true engagement goes beyond that. It's about listening, it's about hearing their experiences, their stories, and their challenges, and how we can support them, and help and identify support so that they can move whatever direction they need to. And as part of this relational journey, we have moments of joy, celebrating growth, answered prayers in companies, new leaders stepping up, young people coming to faith, those moments where we see God at work across our BB companies. These moments remind us as a team why we do what we do, why we encourage, equip and journey with those leaders and those who are faithfully leading in Boys Brigade.
Yeah, so you've mentioned there, David, about some of the challenges. So maybe, Deborah, you could share with us some of the challenges that you might come across.
Some of the challenges we would face would be companies that are struggling, either with really low numbers, or we've also had companies who struggle with lots of boys but not enough leaders. Last year, after the capitation figures came in, we had a look at the numbers and we reached out to those companies that were struggling with really low numbers. So we've paid a visit to the companies, not to inspect or anything, but just to go and get alongside them, see how things were going. We offered some support as well and some help. We could have offered flyers, and we give some ideas of how they could help to grow their company. We also put together a school resource. So if the company was able to go into the local primary school, from the initial email that went to the school to say, can we come in, to a letter, to the programme, to ideas and suggestions, and then some resources as well, just to try and help boost numbers.
Moments of sadness are another thing that we would be working with our companies on, and that can be a number of different things. Companies sadly do close for lots of different reasons, whether that's struggling to get leaders, and we're there in those situations to support the company and the church. It's really important that we're there.
Yeah, okay. Well, suppose on the other side of that then, Deborah, I'm sure there's great joy and celebration at times in your role as well.
Yeah, there is. And whenever there's sort of moments, there's parents' nights and displays and enrollments. And it's great whenever the staff team are asked to go and maybe just represent BBNI. So it's great to be able to go, and it's a great honour to be able to go and be able to bring greetings from BBNI. It's also really great whenever new captains are appointed as well. And once they've completed their training, their engagement officer then would make contact just to introduce themselves and then offer to meet up, normally over coffee. Okay. It's great to put a face to a name, to be able to, it's easier when you're speaking to someone when you know when you've met them before. We also then can answer any questions or concerns, especially if they're new to the role and new to BB as well. We also then give them a pack which has all that they need, the regulations, safeguarding, all of that in the one pack. And then also just then be able to sort of say, look, we're here to support.
Yeah, it's
and
really
help.
Just fostering
yeah,
that.
Yeah, it's just that. And I have had each of the new captains sort of not just last year met up, and then they would WhatsApp now and again, just sort of like, what do I do here? Am I doing this right? So it just means that you're there to, and no questions silly. That's what we always say, so just ask.
Always.
Yeah, we're always as a team, you are really accessible in that way.
Oh, absolutely,
It's no longer just there's a team up in headquarters. It's actually really accessible to folk on the ground.
And certainly as engagement, I would, we contact them and give them your mobile phone number and say, look, it's my work number. You can contact me, and you can some people would WhatsApp, some email, some lift the phone. So
and of course that helps with people out of hours and things.
Oh, absolutely.
People work all day or whatever, then they can contact you and you can pick it up later.
Yeah, absolutely. So just there in those moments.
Okay, so David, the EA funding then, is that something that is a big part of your engagement?
Yeah, so again, we support people from registering to applying. We do that, even guide them how to spend the money. So we have done that over the last number of years, where we do workshops, again, similar to what Deborah shared there. They have our mobile phone number, there's WhatsApps, because sometimes it is easier for someone maybe just to send a message that way. I need a bit of support with this question, send a screenshot. So really practical ways, we are very accessible to people. That's what we've just said, whether it is a WhatsApp message or even a voice note or whatnot, all of those different ways. But yeah, we help support them because it's online. For some leaders, that's a hard thing to fill a form out online. So for some leaders, there's a leader that I would assist every year, step by step over the phone, and talk talk him through how to do that. There's many that we do that with, whether it's over the phone, sometimes on Zoom, sometimes in person. And then we run workshop as well. In addition to that people can come and join a webinar type setting where we talk through step-by-step guide. And on top of that, we would produce guides. Once the funding's released, we would go through the system, screenshotting it, making sure people have a step-by-step guide to know exactly how to do that. And we're always at the end of the phone too for people on that. So it's a real good opportunity to get that funding, and we want to make sure that there's no barriers for the leader in that situation. So whether they've done it for many years or whether they're coming to it brand new, there's a support network here for them to complete that process.
Brilliant. And then finally, Deborah, it's fair to say that the staff team are not just in Newport, that you do get out and about places and meet people.
It's great to get out, usually for coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, so as I said, we meet up with new captains. I met up with 2 just last week, and also we would meet up with our chaplains as well. So it's really good to get out and meet up with chaplains as well. And again, I was about 2 weeks ago, I met up with another chaplain, again over coffee, so it's great just to be able to get out and drink flat whites. Meeting up with someone face to face, I think, is just a really good way of building that relationship, because then you sort of, it's easier just talking over coffee than sometimes just if you don't know the person. Again, we can share sort of our vision, you know, and we're really excited about mission next year, so we're able to share that, and just to hear how their things are going in their church and in their company, and sometimes in family life as well. They sort of share that as well. So it really is a great way just to.
I think it's fair to say that you have made lots of friends over your time of engagement, and I suppose that's what we really are. We're like a big family in Boys Brigade, so it's great to know that there's so much good work going on from the engagement team, so thank you very much. We're so excited and expectant for the next few years here in BBNI. The response to our new vision to raise generations of Christ-like men has been so encouraging. As I said at the beginning, BBNI has many parts, and I'm very thankful for the contribution that everyone makes as we continue to move forward together. We hope this video has been useful in explaining to you how all the pieces fit together.